Okay, we're live. I wanted to step on here, even with nobody listening, because I was triggered by a video of a much more famous, much more experienced um, creator from YouTube. Something about French chic style. She's very sweet. And she started this video about how she was burnt out, but she came back and there are 5 things that helped her. And I do understand the sentiment behind it of trying to help people. But I wanted to come in here and say that as a non-specialist, not non-psychologist, I'm a lawyer, um, non-psychologist, non-specialist, a bit of a coach for sure. Burnout does not get cured in 5 simple steps. I would, in a way, compare burnout with um. I'm making coffee while we talk. With kind of grief, it takes a really long time, and you might never fully overcome it, but you might be much better on the other side if you work on yourself. But the first thing about burnout that I've learned through all of the, I love to do research when I'm when I'm in a problem, especially if I have a diagnosis. I'm like, I need to research this. And then my burnout research, because I burnt out once really badly and then almost burnt out again, but I learned to read the signs and stepped back, was that it takes a really long time. It can take up to 3 years to recover from burnout. So I think it's a bit dangerous to go out into the world and give these steps that seem super simple and you cure your burnout and it's cured. First of all, there's no cure to burnout. Burnout to me is kind of like your soul is dying inside you little by little. And it can be because of many different reasons. I'm looking for my coffee scoop. Many different reasons. It can be because you're not doing meaningful work or really boring work. It can be because you're not in a supportive environment, either at home or in work or working for yourself. You work yourself to the bone. It can be because you're not putting out in the world what you're meant to be putting out. So if, let's say, you have this incredible talent for music, but you chose to do this profession because it pays the bills and so on, and you haven't touched music in years and years and years, your body can, like, you know, break because you're not letting out the beauty that's inside you. And I know it sounds a bit woo, but it's true. We're put on this planet to create, not to be productive. And we're so obsessed with productivity that we forget that we're not here to be productive. This is just a corporate thing to maximize revenue. Quarter over quarter, 20% growth, 30% growth, 1,000,000% growth. That is not what we're here to do. So from that point of view, I'm happy for AI to take my job if what it means to have a job is to be perpetually perfectly productive. But anyway, so there's many reasons why you burn out, and all the rest and all the retail therapy or the taking care of yourself on the surface will not make it go away unless you make tough life choices. Example from my life, how I realized I burnt out. First of all, I didn't even admit to myself that I burnt out until after I was half on the recovery path. I would say, oh, I have chronic stress, which is true. That's the step before burnout, but I never admitted to myself that I actually reached burnout because that felt weak for a lawyer, for a professional, for a woman, a superwoman, like I considered myself. And yeah, burnout was just not something that would happen to me, but it can happen to anyone because we're all human. And it can especially happen to very ambitious people that really strive, and forget to take care of themselves. And that's what happened to me. It was a mix of work. Sorry for the noise. I'm making some coffee. I need coffee. I have a little baby, so he keeps me up at night. Yeah. So it's about, it happens more to strivers than other people, and you can take 2 weeks vacations and rest and not think about it, but it's just a small reset in a problem that's much more foundational. So you need to look into your life when you're burnt out or feeling a lot of stress, maybe chronic stress. Nothing makes you happy. You don't find joy in things you used to find joy in, like, I don't know, eating, being with family. You find yourself closing off from people. Also, when you're interacting at work or in your family, or you're particularly grumpy. I was a royal bitch by the end of it. You're getting a lot of medical issues. For me, I got two autoimmune diseases, which are closely linked with or they start in a stress, in a chronic stress episodes many times. So vitiligo, which is like having white spots on your skin, losing pigment in your skin, which is not fun, especially when you're a woman. Thank God I'm kind of light colored, so it's not like the biggest tragedy on the planet, but it was still tough to accept. And then also an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid disease. And even then, I had those things. I had marks on my body telling me something is definitely wrong, Noemi. And I still didn't say I'm burnt out. But I knew that I had to step away from work. So I did. And I also knew that I had to make changes. And I didn't do that. The first thing I did was take a lot of time for myself. Like, by the time I was really burnt out, I was afraid to cross the street because I couldn't focus enough to cross it properly. And I was afraid I wouldn't notice a car passing by. Like, a mix of irrational anxiety and lack of focus. Also, sleep is really often affected by burnout and chronic stress because the cortisol basically wakes us up when we have too much cortisol in our systems. We're moving in the other room. I have a little baby that is complaining. So, okay. So, burnout doesn't have. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm talking about my own experience and all the research I've done for 2+ years on the topic of burnout. There's no real cure. It's more of a baby, 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 baby. There's no real cure. What you can do is try to know yourself better, to know when to pull back from striving too much, from Joe, baby, baby. We're gonna put Leo to sleep and see if I can continue this. If not, we're gonna have to stop. Sorry for that. Okay, Leo. Oh, Pepino, Pepino. Pepino, Pepino. Oh. Oh. And yeah, yeah. There's a bit of a heat wave in Copenhagen, so right now it's a bit crazy. So this room is the best room for a bit of fresh air. Can you put heat wave and Copenhagen in the same sentence? I guess you can now. So global warming must exist. Okay, again about burnout. There's no cure. It's just you learning to know the signs of burnout and making sure that when they're adding up, you make the changes. Either taking a break, stepping out of the environment that is causing you stress, if that's what's causing you stress, doing more of what you love, if that's what's lacking in your life, taking care of your nutrition and your sleep habits, and staying off of social media is also super important and can help a lot. But there's no cure. There's no 1, 2, 3. Now burnout is over. And I wrote actually a 6 part piece on burnout recovery when I first started here, and I was doing just coaching, and it was all about what I did and the research I found to document how you get out of burnout. But I want to summarize it here. The one thing that helped a lot was adding joy and wonder back into my life. And I know it can sound a bit weird and a bit like, how is that going to help? But if you think of all the emotions out there, when all the negative ones are overwhelming you, what do you need to do, right? So what I did after I've reset, after I've rested, after I thought about what's going on and why am I getting these chronic stress signals, because that's what I was saying to myself, why I was burning out. After I realized what was happening, what I did was I started doing things that I loved. I started doing a bit of art. I love to do watercolor, so I started doing that. Shopping, I love shopping. I didn't do a lot of shopping, but again, I was afraid to cross the street, so you cannot really do a lot of shopping. And then I started cooking and trying to enjoy cooking again, because I didn't enjoy eating at all. So trying to take care of my diet. I started meditating, mindfulness meditation, so being a lot in the present. I started tinkering a little bit in the garden and just being outside as much as possible. I burnt out in March, so I had like 6 months of beautiful weather to cure me. Being in nature is such a free and wonderful therapy. Definitely centers us. The Gen Z saying about touching grass, it's absolutely true. Um, so I started, and it's very, very personal. That's why I'm saying doing videos about burnout and telling people how you're gonna deal with it is, I don't know, so simplistic to a problem that's basically a soul problem almost. Half body, half soul. So doing things that bring me joy. And then what I did is started moving my body. And I realized that the reasons why I never really found a workout that really, I don't know, stuck was that I didn't enjoy any of them. So then I thought, okay, what did I enjoy? And I remember that as a child, I really enjoyed doing all kinds of sports with balls, like tennis and football. Like, I don't know how it's called. Tennis with your feet. I don't know how you call it. It's with a football. Anyways, that thing. I don't know how it's called in English. What else? Volleyball, also badminton. I know that's not with a ball, but still, things like that. And I really enjoyed all of them. So then a friend of mine was doing beach volleyball here close by, and I said, okay, let me give it a try. And oh my God, I reconnected with the child inside me that used to love these types of sports, but I started doing it in a club. So I found a new community to be part of. So there were so many beautiful benefits. Someone lost their little pacifier, so there's no more peace. And I really took care of my health. So the autoimmune diseases that I have, they're not curable, right? But you can be in remission, which means your body doesn't feel like it's under attack, and your immune system calms down. And that's also linked to having a good diet, a diverse diet with vegetables and eating the rainbow things, and it all adds up, and it's all so personal because a doctor cannot see how you live and what you put in your mouth every single day. That's why people need to take a burnout as an alarm sign that your life is not aligned in some places. And it's never one place, it's just work. Work can be the trigger, work can be what starts it, but then your diet starts slipping because when you burn out related to work, sometimes you work even harder to kind of compensate for what you're feeling, like, oh, I cannot focus, so I need to work harder and harder, and you burn yourself even more. And then you forget about diets, forget about breaks, forget about everything, and then you're kind of this robot on the brink of breaking down physically. So there can be many different parts of your life that are misaligned physically, spiritually, mentally, to make you be so unbalanced. And when that situation continues over a long period of time, and the length depends on any of us, then you might get your genetically predisposed illnesses that can come up because your immunity is messed up. You're not giving your body what it needs. Maybe if you're on medication, you forget to take your medication. Everything is just out of whack. And it's just a situation that kind of spirals out of control. And then you're burnt out. But what I want to say is there's hope on the other side, because if you really take burnout seriously and not say, okay, 2-week vacation and I'm done, and you really make the life changes little by little. I'm not saying quit everything, go to a monastery, nothing like that. But you need some time off to think seriously about what you're doing and not scroll the internet. That you can watch podcasts or listen to podcasts, even better, about wellness and things like that, just to inspire you to do things better for yourself and make little steps. And it's basically what I talked about yesterday's life, about having an iterative approach to life, trying different things and see what sticks, see what kind of movement gives you joy instead of feeling like a chore, what kind of food or type of cooking or moment in the day that you actually enjoy cooking, and make a beautiful thing out of it, a ritual. I used to love cooking breakfast slowly after my daughter was at daycare and sitting on the balcony and enjoying it slowly. So, finding those things that bring you joy, that bring you peace, that kind of center you, and making sure you have these things in your life regularly. This publication that I have here, my main publication, is called Me Time. And I always say the Me Time saved my life. And it was this principle exactly, the fact that my, I reclaimed my time. I took as much of it back to myself. I took a leave from work. I focused on myself. I um remove from my calendar all the things that were stressing me out, and I just stripped everything down to just getting back to myself, focusing on my diet, sleep, routines, and then building back from there. And I got to a place of stability. When you reach stability, you add movement and you add creativity. And at every step, if you can, yourself, with the help of loved ones and friends, add joy. If you enjoy going to the movies, go to the movies, watch movies. Give yourself what you want. Give yourself the love you would give your child, your spouse, your mother, your father, give that love and all those things that make you happy to yourself, and then you'll see things change. And then you have to do the hard work of thinking, okay, this is a break, this is not real life. How do I make this how do I incorporate these habits that I want to create in my real life? Do I need a part-time job? Do I need to be a solopreneur and work, or find a job that's remote and I can work from home and my social life can be, I don't know, going to church or the community center and volunteer, or play a sport that involves more people, so that's social. Create those types of have do that work of implementing the things that are helping you recover from burnout in your day-to-day life, because what you need is to add vitamin joy to your life, and that needs to come every single day, either uh, and that's through basically very focused and almost selfish me time, because when you give yourself the time to be yourself, to enjoy something that you love, then you can also show back up in your work, in your family, in your community, in your friend group, recharged, joyful, ready to give, able to give, because your batteries are charged. And it's so, so important. And we kind of get, so hooked on climbing the ladder, running on the corporate treadmill, or whatever the metaphor you want to add, that we basically forget that we actually should take care of ourselves first. First, be true to ourselves, to what brings us joy, be kind to other people, do all those things that make your soul grow, make your spirit dance inside of you. And without that, there's no recovery. And that was basically the message that I wanted to send. And it was all prompted by this video, 5 things that helped this lady come back from the brink of burnout. And let me summarize. What I said is, burnout does not get cured, and it's more about learning the triggers that, or the signs of burnout, to kind of pull back if your life again starts to spiral at some point, because life is fluid, things happen, we cannot control almost anything. So it's about always trying to find that balance with the circumstances, with the cards we're being dealt in life, but still remembering to take care of ourselves, at least on a general basis. Again, there's no cure to burnout, but there's recovery and there's learning. And if you do the work, you might be better at catching burnout uh, before it wreaks havoc again on your life. Um, um, and slowly pivoting different parts of your life until it's more aligned with the type of life where you can actually have some regular joy, love, love, drama. And okay, so there's no real burnout recovery. It takes 3 years to recover from burnout if you do the work. But if you don't do the work, it could take even longer. So also think about that. What else? It's not just the body, it's the soul, it's the spirit. So you need to look at everything in your life and then make changes. One of the quick fixes, if I would say that there's a quick fix, is reintroducing joy in your life. And I'm not talking about dopamine hits here, but I'm talking about um things that really make your soul explode with happiness inside. For me, it was playing volleyball and playing sports and being back in a type of community. It was going to the movies by myself. It was uh, going back to watercolor. Simple things that you can implement in your life and doing it daily, finding, those 5 minutes, that half hour before people wake up in your house or after everyone's asleep. If you're having issues sleeping, then or falling asleep, then perfect. Or if you wake up in the night, you know, uh, maybe you're not gonna go play volleyball, but maybe you can have your sketchbook next to your bed and sketch a little bit, calm yourself, give yourself that thing that brings you joy, and then go fall asleep again. Yeah. So I wanted to say this. I hope it's useful for anyone out there. Um, don't know if I'm gonna share the recording of this. I feel like, yeah, maybe it's useful. I'll think about it. But thank you for joining. Thrive with Meraki and the Well Set and Reset Lab and Tiny Explorers Planet. Um, I wish you well. Stay healthy, stay happy, find your joy, and burnout will be just a pesky thing you can push away with doubling on your joy on the things that help your body and your soul um shine. Take care. Bye.